Good morning from Austin, Texas. My name is Sam. Thank you for joining me. I want to start today by thanking so many of you who have sent me incredible messages just over the last period of time. I was getting ready to film today and I received a message on social media of just a heartwarming thanks. And it would be easy to think that I don't read those. I read the good and I read the mean. And it might be easy to think, Sam doesn't care. Sam cares a lot. Like those positive messages, those messages of incredible kindness and gratitude and heartfelt words of what you're struggling with and how a video helped you or encouraged you. Listen, don't stop that because that's amazing and that really gives me such great hope. I'm not living for that. I'm just telling you, it means everything that you want it to mean, it means. To the mean people, it doesn't succeed. So keep being mean. Hopefully you find some joy in life and can stop projecting stuff onto me. Today, I'm going to talk with you about really how to not lose yourself. Or if you've lost yourself because of all this monstrosity of trauma, how to find yourself again. I read this the other day. I thought, man, it's such a good intro. Listen to this. I had reached a point that I no longer had anything left to say, not only because I knew the best course of action was to be still, but also because I had no desire to put myself in the crosshairs of anyone else's ulterior motives. I was done, drained, and deeply depressed. I couldn't trust people with my pain because I knew that if my vulnerability was manipulated one more time, I would not be able to handle it. In response, I said nothing while people assumed and said everything. Does that feel like any of you or describe maybe your situation? I allowed my silence and absence to be misinterpreted, not because I feared facing others, but because I feared further losing my mind, my faith, and myself. Oftentimes with great trauma, we run into this point of where we feel like we are losing ourselves. And how many times have you sat with your therapist, or how many times have I heard people say, it's like I don't even know who I am anymore, or I feel like I'm losing myself, or I have completely lost connection with myself. I don't even know who I am. And I understand that pain so well. The difference is for infidelity survivors, for trauma victims, childhood trauma, family of origin trauma, developmental trauma as well, of course. The way back is different because we have felt like we have lost ourselves or like we are losing touch with ourselves and we don't know how to get back. The problem is the way back is different than it is for people who just get disoriented because of difficult circumstances, but not trauma or infidelity, because infidelity has a way of almost creating a separation where we feel like I've yelled and raged and lost myself. I've acted in such a way that I didn't even know that I could act. What do I do? We start to survey our actions, unfaithful or betrayed, and we think, I never saw myself acting like this. I never saw myself becoming this person. And there's this point where we say, I feel like I'm on the brink of losing myself, and I don't know what to do. The problem is our old self, as I said in our last video, we can't really go back. We're still trying to dig up that old person, but that doesn't mean that we have lost the ability to reconnect, rediscover, and find out who we are in light of this new trauma. But if you're like me, you've had seasons where you're yelling and screaming. If you believe in God, you're fighting with God, yelling at God. If you don't come from faith, you're fighting this internal battle where it's like, I want to go back to the way things were. I want to go back to how it was. I want to go back there. It was awful. It was painful. But it was familiar. And many times we love familiarity, even at the expense of ourselves, because we're craving familiarity, predictability. Now we're in this Never saw this coming. It's foreign, it's new, it's scary, it's hellacious, it's different. It's causing you to have to be somebody else. It's causing you to have to face things you never thought you were going to have to face, and it's scary. And it makes you think, this sucks. I'd rather go back, but we forget how awful it was sometimes. Not always, but we still want to go back. I remember one of the toughest times of my life. It was during the recession. And I was broke. I was broke. And I was talking to a mentor of mine who was considerably older, and he said, Sam, this is kind of one of those times when you kind of become nostalgic, but you also just yearn for what it was like when you were a child and maybe things were easier. And used to play in the field and play sports and just not have a care in the world. Just play baseball or hang out with your buddies, and you didn't have to think about all this stuff. And it can seem so inviting, but at the end of the day, it's not, because we want to escape. And this, my friends, is not a time for you to yearn for what was. This is a time to embrace what is, to buckle up and say, okay, I'm not going to lose who I am. I'm going to rediscover who I am in light of these new changes. In light of the new failure that I've brought upon my life, I still have meaning and value and purpose. I don't have to be a failure forever. I can have failed, but I don't have to stay a failure. And we'll talk more about that in just a couple minutes. There is no way around this step. The only way is through. And it usually comes by immense grief. Now, grieving is not, and many men, we always think this, grieving is like sitting in my chair just wailing and bawling. It is not. Sometimes it is a quiet drive. Sometimes it is sitting by a fire, processing. Sometimes it's a therapy session. Sometimes it is full of tears. Sometimes it is full of emotions you don't know how to control, man or woman. Sometimes it's just processing at such a deep level of sadness that you're just working through it, and that's grieving. You'll never be able to get through this if you can't grieve. It's not super awesome. It's not super fun. It doesn't have a lot of people click on titles on how to grieve through infidelity, but I'll tell you, it's a necessary step. But the good news is that is a pathway to new life. That is a pathway to not losing yourself, but reconnecting with yourself, reviving yourself, as I said a few blogs ago. It is a way for you to find a new part of you that you did not even know existed. So here's just a few quick points on how to maybe rediscover yourself, how to not lose yourself, how to reconnect with a part of you. Number one is radical acceptance. I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to hurt. I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, I'm not doing my life's mission if I don't tell you. This is not going away anytime soon, unfaithful or betrayed. It will not evaporate with just the right help. The right therapist, expert therapist, $1,000 an hour will not make this evaporate, will not make this just go away. This will be with you forever, but it will not always feel like this. It will not always incapacitate you. You will not always be upended by this pain, but it's not going away. It's not going to evaporate or disintegrate. You're going to have to work through it. The good news is you can absolutely work through it. A therapist said this to me the other day. They say, I tell trauma survivors, if you let this can define you, or you can let this refine you. And I love it because there are some people that they have allowed this to define them for the rest of their life. They will always be known as this, and it's their own choice, because they've allowed it to define them. But that doesn't have to define you. Your character, your integrity, your resilience, your refusal to give in and quit, your self-love, your love for others, those things can define you. Trauma can refine you. It can make you do work. It can make you get aggressive in your healing. It can help you see things far differently. It can bring humility, compassion. It can help you learn how to suffer with other people and not just give sympathy, but empathy. Whether unfaithful or betrayed, this infidelity, this addiction, is not the sum total of your life. it can be used to refine you and reconnect you with a part of yourself that's a champion, that's a winner, that refuses to quit, that gets back up, that is strong and mighty and courageous. Or you can let it define you and say, yeah, this happened to me and I was never the same. And I just kind of laid down. I say that because I have done that. There was a season I laid down and just gave up. I really did. I'm not proud of it, but I'm proud to tell you that I can admit that that's what I did. I laid down, I accepted, feeling like a complete waste and failure. And the only reason I didn't take my own life was because of my 3 kids. Yes, I've been on the suicide hotline. Yes, twice. I've talked to people there. I get it. I know the temptation to do that is real. I hope and pray that you won't. I hope that you will take radical acceptance and say, okay, it is time for a new version of me to come forth. Next, who are you listening to? I heard this metaphor years ago. You can listen to one of 2 voices, the voice of the butcher, which is always killing and slicing and dicing and cutting off life, or the message of the healer, which is all about bringing healing, all about healing ourselves and wanting to heal others. You can listen as you go through this to one of 2 voices, the voice of the butcher, which says, you're a failure, you're always going to be a failure, you're never going to do anything good, you can't win, it's over, give up, quit, why are you even trying, you're a waste, you're always going to be like this. Or the voice of the healer that says, hey, hold on here. We have survived all of our tough days heretofore. We are a survivor. There is new life, new hope ahead of us. You can feed the butcher or you can feed the healer every single day of your life. As you are careful who you're listening to, it's important to know that you don't have to listen or subscribe to the narratives of other people who want to narrate your life for you. You have a choice to say, that's not the narrative I'm going to subscribe to. Thank you very much. Next is the embracing and the admission of the fact that we can have toxicity inside of us. Listen to this quote. The ability to identify your own toxicity is not only a sign of strength, but also an indication of maturity. Maybe for you to get through this, maybe for you to become this new warrior, you have to admit and embrace that you have some toxicity inside of you that absolutely has to be dealt with. Finally, as we say goodbye, an important step is to forgive yourself. It's vital that you will forgive yourself for not being who you wished you were. Let me say it again, especially you unfaithful. It's incredibly important. It is a vital necessity that you understand you have to forgive yourself for not being who you wished you were and for making the choices that you wish you did not make. I have a PhD in self-forgiveness. It is hard as hell, and it is worth every single gritty moment that you choose to do it. It doesn't mean, hey, get over it, betrayed. I've forgiven myself. Move on. No. It means I have caused incredible damage. But if I keep living in shame and self-hatred, how am I going to be okay to help you heal? I've got to work on this to forgive myself. It doesn't mean what I did is okay. It will forever be evil. It'll forever be awful. But I can own it and I can become safe to help you heal, to be a better man, a better woman for you. As you are on this journey, I hope that today has encouraged you, and I hope you just refuse to quit. I hope that you will be tenacious today in your own healing, in your own personal work. You are your own, which is incredibly liberating and powerful, but scary as hell, because if you are your own, it is nobody else's job to do your work to heal. So do work today. Think of me while you're doing work, while you're reading, going to therapy, watching memes. I don't know what it is. Do work today to help yourself heal. You can absolutely do this.